But I mean, there's nothing, zero coming out of any faucets at my house. So, brushing teeth with bottled water, etc., flushing the toilet with buckets of melted snow, essentially. I mean, tons of people are doing that I know. The entirety of restaurants and businesses are shut down. They were not given any notice about this. They were blindsided.
Hey, it's Jordan. I am in Flint, Michigan, East Palestine, Ohio, Tumwa, Iowa. Please support the only independent outlet on the ground covering what the corporate media covers up. Hey, it's Jordan. Delighted to be joined by Nathan in Richmond, Virginia. Obviously, the world is focused on the apocalyptic-looking fires in California. We want to also get attention on the fact that we are on day 3 now in Richmond, Virginia, without water. Not a lot of attention about that in media. There's a lot of reasons for this. Some seem a little suspicious as far as the communication about this to the residents. But let me start, Nathan. This is you yesterday on day 2, just showing what happens when you turn on the water. Let's take a look.
This is Richmond, Virginia, January 2025. Day 2.
So Richmond, fairly big city. Tell us what happened when you you and your neighbors realized there was a problem, and there seems that there was quite a delay in the local officials telling you that there was a water issue.
Yeah, and thank you for chatting with me. I'm a huge fan, and I love your work. You do so much stuff that's very important. And yeah, very little national attention, which has been very surprising because we are on day 3 of literally nothing coming out of the faucets. So I work in a grocery store, and just full disclosure, like I am not an expert, or, I'm totally a layman when it comes to obviously water issues, et cetera. So I'll do my best to explain what I know with the kind of opaqueness of what has been released. But we do have a lot of good on the ground citizen journalists in Richmond who are reporting stuff. So I work at a grocery store, and I had to be at work, obviously, because it's a critical thing that's needed during a winter storm. We had snow coming in Sunday night. We had known about the snow for up to a week, if not sooner. And it seems like no preparation was made for anything. Like they just were completely caught off guard. So I didn't notice the water because, like I said, I was at work. But on Reddit, people began asking questions and posting in the RBA Reddit thread, subreddit, that they were noticing low water. There were people posting pictures on social media of brown water coming out of faucets, people filling up cups and showing bottled water versus tap water, and the discrepancy in the color and the dirtiness. And again, there was a lot of wild speculation swirling, and obviously discerning what's real, what's fiction is always difficult, but not a peep from the city. There was no.
And this circulation on social media was going on like Monday morning?
Monday morning, yes.
Mm-hmm.
What the city has told us is that power went out at 6 a.m.-ish in the morning, and it was not restored until 9:30. The boil advisory was not issued until about 4:36 per a press conference. So there is a lot of time there where people were potentially using contaminated water. Again, this may or not be true, but people were reporting some issues, like people with autoimmune stuff were saying they were having reactions to the water. Again, I can't verify that. A lot of stuff happens, that, again, you can't verify. You see stuff online, what's accurate, what's not. But what we all collectively knew was water pressure was very low or non-existent in faucets. So the big question that no one seems, at least from the city, able to answer, or the governor, not a peep from our governor, Glenn Youngkin, which is not at all surprising that he hasn't said anything. To my knowledge, I actually had a friend reach out to him, and the governor's office basically hung up on him and told him, this is your problem, deal with it. I talked to him right before we actually started chatting, but there was a big time between 9:30 and 4:30. When they finally did make the announcements, they did not send any text alerts. They did not have any type of phone emergency notifications. So you basically had to be watching cable news or be on social media in order to find any of this information out. No alerts. There's no explanation given why they weren't. They have, from my understanding, and we've gotten notices and alerts in the past. They have the ability to do that, but yet no one was told of a potential problem, of the boil notice. Nothing from our phones. People were pretty upset about that for obvious reasons. I mean, for health reasons and for preparedness reasons.
Yeah.
The stores were
And people were home at this time because of the storm.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. Like they were like, well, we were trying to not have a problem, but then the obvious problem happened. They didn't anticipate large water usage. I don't know how they didn't. The entire city was shut down. Everyone was at home using water. So they drained the reservoirs and the water system.
And schools were closed because of the storm?
Schools closed, libraries. I mean, the whole city was shut down. It's, we haven't had a snow in a while here. And, Richmond, especially as the last 10 years, snow is becoming less and less. But it's not unheard of for us to get snow, right? Like there was just no preparedness for a weather event. And again, we knew about snow. I mean, I work in a grocery store. It's, all hands on deck. We were preparing on, in the retail sector for an entire week for snow.
And let me read more about the delay, which, like you said, who knows how many hours people were drinking potentially contaminated water. This from the local CBS. And though the power outage, which officials said triggered the water issues, was reported early Monday morning and restored that day by 9:40 a.m., the city didn't issue an alert to citizens until 4:30 p.m. By then, reports of residents experiencing low water pressure had already widely circulated on social media. The mayor said that the advisory didn't go out until late afternoon because city officials thought they could rely on the reserve for longer than they actually did. But the lack of notice meant Richmonders were left scrambling with little time to prepare. Also should be noted, I mean, the infrastructure is pretty old there.
Yeah.
Richmond, like many other places. So when they're telling you, when they ultimately did a boil water alert, well, if you got lead in your water, you're only intensifying the lead if you tell residents to boil water.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. I had a friend reach out to me because she lives in the counties and it's actually spreading. I don't think I shared this with you. They said it was just the city. It is now spread through parts of Henrico and Hanover County. So that's it's just only getting worse. So yeah, the lead thing, but my friend, she was saying that she has been on a boil notice for a couple of months now because of her pipes. Luckily, the pipes in my particular neighborhood, we don't have any lead issues that we know of. So that's good. So even when they get the water back up and running, who's to say, and then we have another snowstorm coming on Friday. And I got to listen to the press conference this morning and one of the reporters asked, do you have any plans or preparations? And they just straight up said, no, we're just going to trudge ahead was the general answer they gave people. And another thing that was, with the notification, again, there was about 7 hours. We don't know why they weren't telling us anything. And we also did not realize, because they have kept saying it'll be back on, it'll be back on, it'll be back on, and nothing. There is still no water coming out of my faucets. Most of my friends and neighbors don't have anything coming out either. We had an ice storm Monday night. They did not tell us until the evening that we will not have water. So people had to go to the streets in the middle of an ice storm to try to get to grocery stores, which the retailers had no time to prep. Lines all the way wrapped around. Obviously most everywhere ran out in the city. People have to leave the city. So if you don't have a car, good luck.
I'll show an image here. A local reporter posted multiple reports of Richmond bottled water distribution sites without water or volunteers. It's been over an hour since distribution was supposed to begin. Reached out to officials, but the cause of the delay remains unclear. So yeah, water distribution sites without water. Goes to what you're saying.
Yeah, and while I was waiting for this conversation, they said 311 was up and working. That's you call in 311 for help or whatever for vulnerable residents who don't have access. So I decided to see if it was working. 47 minutes I was on hold. And when I called, they basically said, we don't know, because I do have elderly neighbors obviously, and they might need water. And they were like, they couldn't tell me when water could actually be delivered. So
right.
If you have a car, you'll probably be okay. But obviously there are a lot of people without transportation and, vulnerable and at-risk people who can't get out, and it's still icy.
Yeah.
So,
and let me also mention, because I mentioned lead, which, when people think lead, they think of Flint and other places. But, the pipes all over the country are very old, and a lot of people have lead service lines, the lines from your curb into your house. that bring you water that have lead. And just a few months ago, October, Richmond Department of Public Utilities sent more than 85,000 letters to residents with unknown or lead service water lines, meaning, like many cities, they're trying to identify which homes and neighborhoods have lead service lines to replace them, which I could tell you from Flint and other places is unfortunately a very long process. But if they're telling you to boil your water and you have lead service lines, even if you have, tiny particles of lead coming into your water, if you're boiling that water, you're intensifying the lead, which is a whole nother problem, which either these departments are too stupid to know or, simply don't care. So that's a problem. And you were talking about people having brown water come out, which can happen when you have old pipes and corrosion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I sent you a report from, I believe it was 2017, where they talked about at the Department of Public Utilities, staff shortages, outdated technology. The water plant is 100 years old, actually, which is just, I did not realize that until this. This has been a known problem. And a friend of mine who's a plumber said, oh yeah, we have known for 10 years that the water infrastructure was fragile and compromised. It's just kind of like common knowledge around here. Mm-hmm. And again,
and not to cut you off, but I would tell viewers, because a lot of viewers watch these stories and feel for people, but might not realize this is interconnected. Like, this is not just Richmond. Mm-hmm. Richmond is not like, in the boondocks. It's got 230,000 people, I think the population is. There's most water departments, most city, local public utilities departments, underfunded, understaffed. Like most cities, they're issuing bonds, which is what happened in Flint, which is, borrowing money from investors to pay for water department upgrades, water plant upgrades. But a lot of cities, are slacking on that. So you have crumbling infrastructure, understaffed plants, outdated equipment, so that if there's a storm, flooding, whatever, all hell could break loose, and then residents are left with no drinking water or contaminated drinking water. So can you kind of share more about, I know you have roommates, but, other people, how are people dealing? I guess people are having to ration, water.
Yeah, I posted a video on TikTok. There's still snow on the ground. So a lot of people, I mean, it's not funny, but got to laugh. If you don't laugh, you cry. But we're filling up buckets with snow to let it melt to flush the toilet. And again, there is, and I don't understand why some places have a little bit of water and others have none. But I mean, there's zero coming out of any faucets at my house. So, brushing teeth with bottled water, etc., flushing the toilet with buckets of melted snow, essentially. I mean, tons of people are doing that I know. Having to drive outside of the city to get water. And, from my understanding, people at the water distribution areas were waiting hours just to be able to get water. And there's been a lot of ball dropping on that front, being able to get water to people. And again, I don't know if you do not have a car. I mean, the public transportation in Richmond is not that great. I just don't understand how people without vehicles or people that are experiencing houselessness are supposed to be able to get water. I mean, it's a very spread out city with lack of public transportation. And this is not the most important thing right now, but the entirety of restaurants and businesses are shut down. They were not given any notice about this. They were blindsided. Obviously, that affects workers and their ability to have an income right now. So there's obviously a lot of outrage on that front. And hospitals are on they're sending people away that don't have a critical, immediate, life-threatening thing coming into hospitals. I know the VA canceled all procedures. We had a VA nurse come into work yesterday and talking about them just sending people home. I mean, because there's no water, you can't flush anything. So, I mean, everything is just shut down with no clear timeline, because they keep saying, oh, it's back up by 12, and then 12 comes, and then it's nothing. From my understanding, there's 2 pumps working, and they brought pumps in.
This is an update this morning from Mayor Avila. Says Yeah, it says 5 of the water treatment plants, 8 pumps, and 13 of its 20 filters are now working. That will produce about 45 million gallons a day, up from 9 million last night. The reservoir is at 7 feet. It's usually at 18 feet. The goal today is 10 feet. And this is from a reporter at that press conference. No drinkable water, I think he meant, until Friday. Avula said battery pack backup lasted for 1 hour. The power outage lasted for 2. We had a redundancy, but it failed. Too early to know the cause, but he speculated about aging infrastructure. The plant is 100 years old. I don't think. I think we could go beyond speculation. Your plant is 100 years old. It can't apparently sustain power outages. And again, this is broader than just Richmond. So as the media fixates on, Donald Trump and his lunacy of wanting to buy or seize Panama and Greenland, how about we focus on fixing the infrastructure, the water systems in our country? Because I got news for you. The greatest national security threat, Nathan, it's not Russia, it's not China, it is your water. If your water is dirty or you go without water, you're not going to live much longer than 4 or 5 days. And if you consume contaminated water, you might not die right away, but it is going to produce a whole lot of problems for you. Go ask the people of Flint and elsewhere. What are your thoughts on why would it be taking so long for a city like Richmond to get this back and running?
Yeah, we'll have a lot of thoughts. I mean, first, and I think most of the people that watch your show are probably awakened to this, but this is not a red state, red area, blue area issue. Look at West Virginia and the water issues there. Look at East Palestine, Ohio, Flint, Michigan here. I mean, it is just crumbling infrastructure, and working people are consistently screwed, whether it's a D or R. I mean, that's it, right? The threat is not from outside. It is from corrupt oligarchs and our just out of control government. But reasons why, I mean, again, it's been kind of a known thing for a long time that our water infrastructure is behind. It's dated, the staff shortages, the issues with billing, good luck trying to contact anyone at the Department of Public Utilities if you have any sort of issue. It just kind of seems like these problems, you can just copy and paste it and apply to any area. The problems with like technology. So when and that was another thing they were saying, it sent a shock to the IT system. And when that stuff goes down, it's just catastrophic. And people don't, the left hand does not know what the right hand is doing. But I really could not answer what the kind of definitive cause, incompetence, corruption, I don't know. And I should add that the mayor was just sworn in on January 1st. So this is his first week. And, obviously you can't blame this on him, but I just really wish he would have notified us immediately. Hey, don't freak out, but like there might be a potential of water outage, but we're going to wait.
Can you shed light? Obviously, this is a new mayor, but on the city in the past, what have been the priorities financially? Have they focused on other things that they've spent a lot of money on instead of, upgrading the water plant and other infrastructure?
That's a giant question mark. We don't actually know in Richmond what City Hall does. And this particular mayor kind of ran on, transparency within City Hall. I mean, Richmond has a long-standing history of corruption and incompetence within our city government. Like I said, the governor was just like, this is y'all's problem. I should add, I was at some of the Palestine protest, and lo and behold, every single bit of Richmond resources were sent there to have police officers just swarming the streets, for peaceful protest against war. But God forbid we ever get proper infrastructure, any type of housing stability, any type of rent control. There's very little like organizational left kind of infrastructure within Richmond, as is a lot of places. Like there's not a really thriving DSA or any types of things like that. There are so many scandals. And again, I don't want to like speculate and throw things out that aren't based in reality. But another one that was kind of circulated, the previous mayor, money that was supposed to go to COVID relief, he spent on a sign for one of the shopping districts. And a lot of the money, people are like, what did you do with this? Just, a lot of stuff like that, a lot of alleged corruption, very little actual resources in terms of helping people, whether that's people that are experiencing houselessness, the epidemic of addiction and overdose, obviously water, et cetera. Public transportation is a nightmare here. That's a whole nother conversation as well. So, I don't quite know what they are doing and what our tax dollars are going for, but it's not for a thriving, robust city with wonderful infrastructure. There was one of the restaurant owners, it kind of went viral, and I can't necessarily say I agree with him, but he was like, this is almost reminding me of being in Venezuela. Just the total kind of seemingly incompetence. I don't really like making those types of comparisons, but it was a restaurant owner that was, asked by a reporter and just caught off the cuff and was just like, this is ridiculous.
Right.
We're in the United States and we don't know what's happening and we don't have literally any water coming out of our faucets.
Right. Well, Venezuela is far less wealthy than the United States.
Yeah.
So
he was being facetious. Yeah. I don't like making those comparisons, but it's just total incompetence though.
Right. And last question, do you have any assurances on when water will come back? Anything from the local officials? I know it's a new mayor as far as why water was brown, if there's any, health mechanisms to give people certainty if the water was contaminated. Do you even trust that coming from, what you've described as a history of corruption within the government?
Yeah, I very rarely trust anything. And that was another thing that was not addressed at the press conference today, any type of water testing, et cetera. The big thing that a lot of people are worried about is we have another snowstorm coming potentially. And they just said we have no preparation. So that's a big, obviously question mark. They rented some pumps and it's like, why didn't you have those prepared? I guess through contractors, they were able to get that. And the thing they keep saying is, we will figure out what happens after the dust has settled. And how often do we hear that? Like, just wait, and then it's just swept under the rug and they kick the can down further and further. And then the next thing happens and then we're distracted by that. So I hope there are more people like you and others who really hold their feet to the fire and demand accountability. Because like I said, we knew this could happen. Apparently about 10 years, plumbers in the area have known that there were serious faults and flaws with the system. There has been reporting through audits of staff shortages, potential IT issues, and outdated equipment. So it was a known thing. But from what they were saying is they are hoping to have water kind of returned, I believe Friday was what they were saying. I am very doubtful. Like, I'm not drinking the water when it comes back on, obviously. There will be a boil notice, they were saying, at least till Friday. But again, they keep pushing that mark back. So who actually knows when it's going to be, if 2 pumps out of how many are working, and they keep shutting down. So I'm not hopeful.
Well, I will say this. I've been covering water for years. Water, it doesn't really travel based on your politics. So whether you're in a blue area or red area, it's a bipartisan issue. But I will say, if Trump wants to go down actually doing something for the masses, that includes MAGA, he says he's such a builder and, builds all these towers and magnificent buildings, rebuild our infrastructure, because that infrastructure deal didn't really replace all the lead lines. And it's not just a problem of lead and water. It's a problem. Our infrastructure is almost as old as our politicians. And that's saying something. So sorry you're going through this, and we'll stay in touch. Hope you guys get clean water back up soon.
Yeah, thank you. If you need anything, let me know.
All right. Thanks, Nathan.
Yeah, thank you.